Well, even I was not prepared for things to go potentially at this speed. But of course, we talked about the fact that you had Rishi Sunak pretty much stake his entire political career on the Rwanda Plan. This comes under two sections almost, if you think about it. First of all, will this pass in Parliament? We don't know. Rishi Sunak has already lost in one vote recently, just this week. He lost when 23 Tory MPs voted against the government, signalling that, yes, Tories are very well prepared to vote against the government. We don't know, for example, is Rishi Sunak next week going to set up maybe a 3-line whip for his Tory MPs? And of course, the threat may be along the lines of, if you defy the whip, well, then you then lose the whip and you, well, lose your candidacy at the next Tory party election. To be honest, there are a lot of Tory MPs stepping down anyway at the next election. So, hey, might be a good time to suddenly start searching for a new job and have your excuse to get out of not running potentially at the next general election. Better than stepping down. Hey, I didn't step down or lose my seat. I stood up against the government and its crazy bill, or not, shall we say, harsh enough bill, depending, of course, on what stripe of Tory maybe deploying this particular excuse wants to use. So make no mistake that this Rwanda bill, when it comes to voting next week, this is going to be seen as a vote of confidence in Rishi Sunak. And here's the thing, Rishi Sunak should take a lot of notes from history because he was there during the time when this exact same thing happened to Theresa May. So we're going to talk about, first of all, Theresa May, what happened to her, because I'm sure we all remember that, and then how this could all potentially play out next week, because there are a couple of things how this could play out. So it's crystal ball time, ladies and gents, once again, to predict what indeed could happen. So before we do all get into that, though, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And of course, there is the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club as well down below. And of course, don't forget to leave your comments, your theories down below as well. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you have your own theory of what might happen next week? Like I say, let me know, because I think all of a sudden, who knows what can happen next week in this? And like I say, we'll get into this. So, without further ado, let's crack on, shall we? So, Theresa May. Remember Theresa May. Remember Theresa. Ah, sweet Theresa. The mistake she also made. She bet her entire political career on trying to pass her Brexit bill. And 3 times she tried, and 3 times she was denied, thusly, of course, by the powers that be of the Brexiteers, the Spartans, who stood against her. And when she was trying to, of course, pass this bill, she was trying to pass what was, at the time, a very, very soft version of Brexit. And of course, it wasn't hard enough for those right-wing Tories, the 3 groups who, ironically, are convalescing once again in the Star Chamber. The door has been unsealed, and the ERG, the Common Sense Group, and the New Conservatives all getting together to go into the Star Chamber to closely examine this Ruwanda Plan, which ultimately, given the fact that, well, they don't like Rishi Sunak one bit and would perfectly like to see him gone, well, this is their chance. This is their chance of a lifetime. And it's been said multiple times at this point that regicide is in the Tory blood. Well and truly, they ain't afraid to get rid of their leader. And especially in the fact that if you look, that Rishi Sunak himself, vastly unpopular with Tory party MPs. He's unpopular in his own party. He's not polling well with the public. The Tory party, even voting fortunes, are an absolute dire state. So they may think, well, now's the time to get rid of Rishi. Maybe we can give ourselves a pre-Christmas present. We get rid of Rishi, we get someone in new, and we have a whole new year of a new face to lead the Conservative Party and go for that last possible moment that we talked about before, the January 2025 possible election. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that is what many, many Tories are now contemplating as they go home this weekend back to their constituents. And while they may sit there in their surgeries, speaking to their constituents, doing the rounds, going to those little Christmas fairs, buying their raffle tickets, that may be their ultimate thought. Can we have enough time, or do we have enough time to change a leader and maybe change our fortunes and have that January 2025 general election? It's not beyond the realms of possibility, because there was one individual in particular who, remember, elected almost in a very similar style in a dire circumstance. And just this week, one Tory commentator pointed it out that Boris Johnson managed to turn the party fortunes around within 6 months. Rishi Sunak has had longer than that to try and reverse Tory party fortunes, and he has failed spectacularly. But the question is, who do you then go for? Kimi Badenoch, of course, is one obvious choice. Very popular amongst the Tory party faithful, and we've seen multiple times from Conservative home. Maybe Priti Patel throws her hat into the ring, potentially. Suella Braverman, as we all well know, definitely wants to be seen as the next natural leader of the Tory party. Maybe Tom Tugendhat comes back into this potential upcoming race and says, hey guys, I was right all along. Remember at the last time I was telling you we need to change and how right I was? Maybe he comes back. And of course, Penny Mordaunt potentially as well could also be thrown into that race. But that is, of course, one possibility. That's, of course, if it all goes a bit Pete Tong next week for old Rishi and the Ruwanda bill does not pass Parliament. The next problem is, of course, the House of Lords. What if it passes in the Commons and then the Lords go, sorry, we know this bill is breaking international law. You can make all the laws that you want, but we ain't going to pass something that breaks international law. The Lords have been very firm on that line since day one of this crazy plan coming into inception. And there is not enough time for Rishi Sunak to try and marshal his forces to try and do an act of parliament to bypass the Lords. That ain't going to happen this time. There just isn't enough time to do that. So we could go into a general election, as we said last time, as it being a immigration election. That's the central issue that the Tories will try and fight this particular general election on. Meanwhile, of course, the cost of living, energy crisis, NHS, you name it, far, far more pressing issues to the general voting public, they're ignoring. But next week, if this does not pass, if this bill does not pass in Parliament next week, it could be all over for Rishi Sunak. And I generally say that because, as it has been described, Sir Graham Bradley is suddenly become like Santa Claus, and he's receiving a trickle of seasonal letters into the 1922 committee. And of course, if we hit that magic number over the weekend. Of course, we will learn on Monday if enough letters have gone in. Who knows? Maybe enough letters have gone in that we may learn by the end of Friday. But make no mistake, there are letters going in. Because we know this is what many Tory MPs have been saying. They would not be saying this if there weren't letters going in right now. So I say this with all, crystal ball gazing. Next week, and we always say this, next week could suddenly become very, very interesting indeed if the Ruwanda bill does not get passed in Parliament. So, like I say, remember to click on the like, the share, and of course, if you are new, hit the subscribe button. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.